Hey guys, Shiko here, and today we'll be going over a guide for Chaotic Realm Goblin Lair Master Mode. The requirements for this dungeon are 3 to 5 people, with Master 1 starting at 12,340 ability power, while Master 6 starts at 18,090 ability power. You will have 9 minutes to accumulate 1,200 survey points from ads, and for every attempt of the boss you'll have 6 minutes before he hits Enrage. Before we dive right in, let's discuss the differences you'll see when challenging Master Mode. This section will be the same for all the master guides, so if you've already heard it once, you can go ahead and skip it. When you first unlock Master Mode, you'll notice that there are levels to the dungeon. The first level requires an ability power of 12,340 and increases as you unlock more levels. Each time a new level is unlocked, so too is the power scaling of the enemies. However, the dungeon mechanics themselves will remain the same. Between levels 1 through 5, the gear's reward will be level 60. Once you reach Master 6, level 80 gear will begin to drop instead, but will require an ability power of 18,090 to enter. In Master Mode, there will be a higher amount of mobs and they will hit hard. Not only that, but Void mobs will also be present. Void mobs are mobs that deal significantly more damage than their regular counterpart, so make sure your Seasoned Engram is leveled in order to both mitigate and kill them faster. On top of that, there is a higher threshold of survey points that will need to be achieved. This means that you and your party will have to eliminate most or nearly all of the mobs in order to get to the boss. At some point during ads, you'll see this glowing triangular structure. It will give you two options that you can choose from that will affect the nearby mobs. You can either cleanse enemies of their void, resulting in mobs doing less damage at the cost of lowering the survey points the party gains from defeating them, or inflict void to nearby enemies, increasing the survey points the party receives from defeating them at the cost of void mobs dealing more damage to players. Do note that the ads must be close to the structure when activating, as the radius does not cover the entire room. Having skills or imagines like Tempest Ogre that pulls are extremely helpful. When you get to the boss, some mechanics will be slightly altered for Master Mode, but for the most part will be identical to Hard Mode. You'll still have 6 minutes before the boss hits Enrage, so that hasn't changed. However, each player is only allowed to use one revive candy per pull of the boss, so it's important to time mitigations, stock up on healing aromatics, and communicate to ensure a smooth run. Although you can retry the boss as many times until you clear, in Master Mode, all deaths from the dungeon start to finish are counted and will penalize the amount of master points you can accumulate. Something to note is that during ads, players can still revive one another and do not need revive candies until the boss. Alright, let's go over the dungeon now. Now let's take a look at the map layout. You'll notice familiar aspects such as where you first start the dungeon, the goblin apparitions that summons tornadoes, fire breaths, and boulders, and these red bars to indicate the barriers that are unlocked once you kill the goblins with symbols above their heads, and the boss room. In addition to Master Mode, more rooms have been unlocked in order for you to fill out your survey points to get to the boss. We'll go through each section one by one, starting with this one for pool number 1. And as a discretion for all pools, if you find your party struggling to stay alive, then feel free to opt for smaller pools. When you start the dungeon, head into the first room for the first set of ads. The yellow monster symbol will represent the weak ones, while the orange ones will represent elites. Continue pulling these ads into the newly available room on the left, where you'll find 19 more. Group them all up on the triangular structure. Here you'll want to interact with the triangular structure. If you turn them into void mobs and can handle the damage increase they'll receive, you will be able to skip the spider room. However, if you cleanse the void, you will need the spider room to gain enough survey points in the end. For lower master ranks, I recommend turning them into the void, but as you get higher, it's much easier to do the spider room, which I'll explain later at the end. Once pull number 1 is complete, continue through the first barrier where you'll find the goblin apparition summoning tornadoes. Just like normal and hard, getting hit by the tornadoes will slow you down, but hitting the apparition will disperse them. Now let's take a look at pull number 2. This one is straightforward. Engage the ads in the room right before the barrier and bring them into the new ogre room. Defeat them all to proceed to pull number 3. Continue through the second barrier and hit the goblin apparition spitting fire. Either let the tank handle doing this or wait until the fire stops to proceed, as taking the damage will hurt and may result in adding to the death penalty. For pull number 3, we'll only focus on the ads in this room. Regardless on if you cleanse or added the void in the first pull, the room below is not necessary unless you need extra points, but even if you do, the spider room is still easier and will be enough. For this pull, head up the ramp to the right and pull the elite mobs and jump down to the center of the room to fight the rest. This will be all the mobs for this pull. Continue onwards to the apparition summoning boulders and hit it. There will be 3 mobs at the entrance of the spider room. If you chose to inflict the mobs with the void in pull number 1, then this will be enough to complete the survey. If not, then continue on to the spider room. For pull number 5, just defeat as many spiders as you can and that should complete the survey. Now, let's get to the boss. The first mechanic of the boss will be a heavy hitting tank buster. Tanks will need to mitigate in order to avoid being one-shotted. The next mechanic is called Shield Guard Charge. Once the 10-second cast is finished, the boss will become invulnerable and summon 2 lines of goblin adds. After a few seconds, each one will charge, dealing damage to anyone in their paths. Getting hit by 2 will likely result in death. At the same time, 1 goblin in each row will have shields above their heads. Killing them will drop a shield item that the players can pick up. Players should prioritize killing the ones with these shield markers, as the shield will be needed for the next mechanic, and it'll create a safe spot for the party. There will also be an extra shield on the ground totaling up to 3 shields possible. Later on in the fight, the arena will shrink, so it's important that a safe spot is created, as the charges will cover the entire small area. After the adds are done charging, the boss will create an electrical perimeter that will stay the entire fight. Standing in it will deal massive damage over time to the player. At the same time, the boss will generate a shield around itself and begin rotating towards a random player, prioritizing players who picked up the shields. He will then cast an electric orb and stay stationary until the orb resolves. If the orb touches the edge of the arena, it will pull all players to it, explode, and most likely wiping the party. In order to resolve this mechanic properly, players should pick up the shields. Using it will deploy a shield in front of the player where they can aim and see a path wherever they're aiming. When the orb begins to travel, 1 player should use the shield to deflect the orb towards the side of the open gap in the boss's shield, while another player deflects it into the gap, successfully resolving the mechanic. In Master Mode, this gap is much smaller, so be very mindful. Do note that if the orb touches the boss's shield, it will explode, dealing massive damage to all players. You can also resolve this mechanic with only 1 shield, where the first person who deflected will run and dash to the second point of deflection and deflect it themselves. And for the last mechanic, it will be a sequence of pizza slices. Wherever the first set spawns, just stand next to it, so by the time they go off, you can just go in and be safe for that duration. Getting hit by one of these pizza slices will deal a moderate amount of damage and knock you up. And just be cautious because you will not be able to dash during this mechanic. Afterwards, all the mechanics will repeat until the boss is defeated or he hits enrage. And that concludes our guide. Thanks for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and take care!